Welcome to Interviews from Mexico. I'm Laura Carlson, and I'll be your host as we look at cutting-edge issues with the men and women who know them best, here on Telesur. April 29th is International Dance Day, designated by the United Nations to recognize an art form that's also a part of daily life in all cultures. It certainly is in Mexico, where no fiesta would be complete without music and dancing. But it's a different thing to recognize dance as a performance, and it's often an uphill struggle to get the recognition and the budget that dance deserves here in Mexico. To talk about dance in Mexico, we're very pleased to have with us today Pilar Urreta. Pilar, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Pilar is a professor at the National School of Classic and Contemporary Dance and a dancer and choreographer herself. For her contributions to Mexican dance, she's been awarded the Merit Award from the National Council of Arts and many other awards as well. Pilar, this long experience both in dance and with the school, tell us about over 40 years of the National School of Dance. What changes have you seen in the field of dance in Mexico?
Many changes. The school is very concentrated in high quality dancers and very, very high performance, but also serves as a means to filter all necessities that we have in the city mainly and in the country too. So there are performers and dancers and teachers who come to the school and learn maybe in a summer course something very specific, and then they can go back to their own places to teach. We have a continuous education in that area, summer courses, and what has, I think, changed is that the level of performance, the level of choreography is higher and higher every generation. Yeah.
So you have a bachelor's program that actually gives the students a degree in dance, and then you have special programs that provide specialty training for dancers all over the country.
Exactly. We have 5 programs. One is for a performer, for ejecutantes, we call them. They are ballet trained. They receive an open education because they also are learning didactics and dance history, not only technical aspects of dance, but an education that will allow them to go into different streams of work. And also we have a contemporary dance program, a choreographers program, and an education program.
That's where you work.
And that's where I work, yeah. So it's at the same time it's specialized and it's open enough so that they can build their own career with all these options.
I noticed that you also have a program that goes down into primary and secondary school.
Absolutely.
And that children, rather young children, are being spotted as having this vocation, this talent, and you're beginning to work with them from that age. What's the advantage to starting that young?
Well, we have to consider that the National School is a public school. This means it's free, and so the students have to be chosen because we don't have a big budget to attend maybe hundreds and hundreds of people, so it's a few people that come in. But since we know that ballet, for example, is a specialty in the arts that has to be taught from very early age, they have to come in as soon as possible. And the school offers something that is very extraordinary. They give them the regular school and the dance school at the same time.
So they unite it with the public school curriculum for their age.
Exactly. So they can learn there from primary school, they go all the way to high school and to the bachelor degree. They can spend their education in that one school.
So when you talk about there being a large number of applicants, is there a lot of competition to get into these programs?
It is a lot of competition. Sometimes we might have maybe 100 aspirants for one single degree, from one bachelor degree, and maybe only 12 will get in. And this is, there are two reasons. One is the level that we are wanting to achieve in their education, and they really become very extraordinary dancers. And the other part is that it is a public school, so it has to be earned in a way, so that people that get in will have a very good chance. We have to consider that the school gives them the opportunity every semester to go into professional theater performance. We have several theaters at the Centro Nacional de las Artes, National Center for the Arts, and we have 2 theaters, professional theaters, that they go and they do their exams there, they practice, they have an experience that is a professional experience.
They actually perform while they're learning.
With an audience and everything. So it's with lighting technicians, with the whole resources that they will need when they are already, they've achieved their degree. Yeah.
Do you find that there are a lot of young people? You said there was a lot of competition to get in. Has this changed over time? Are there still a lot of interest in dance as a professional career?
You know, it goes in waves. It's interesting. Some generations we have many students that go into the ballet degree, and some other years we have more in contemporary dance. And so it flows very. I would have, to answer that, I would have to do a strict analysis of how it goes and comes, the statistics of it. But in general, I think there is a huge amount of people that are interested in ballet, and then less so in contemporary dance, and then less so in choreography and education. Yeah.
Do you think there's been a boom or an increased interest in your field in contemporary dance now with music videos and the way that music performance has become more united with dance in the media?
We've had generations that are interested mainly in doing interdisciplinary work. So they combine their own studies with other studies outside for music or for video. But we have included all the video in the programs, a video area, teachers that teach video, music, etc., so that they can integrate. And yes, there is a demand on new technologies and new ways of including other arts. Yeah.
You yourself have kind of crossed those barriers, the interdisciplinary work between the choreography, the performance, and explain some of that experimentation that you've done and how it's changed your attitude toward dance to work with different genres.
You know, it's interesting. In Mexico, there has been there was a line of working with dance that tried to get very close to people in little towns. So they developed, choreographers here developed what we call danza callejera, danza for the streets. And that evolved into all kinds of artistic crossings, from installation, free performance, and all of that. In my case, I started like that. I had a group that was called Grupo de Danza Urbana. So we would take the streets, actually, and walk and perform while we were walking. And
did you announce it beforehand,
no.
or was it like a flash mob?
It was like a flash mob. Exactly, that's what it was, actually. I never thought of it that way, but it's true. And the experience was...
People loved it.
It was fantastic. Fantastic. And now there are very complex combinations, but also these types of expressions on the street, festivals on the street, in different states in the country where they have beautiful open areas where they can do these kinds of things. It's important. It's very important. It's also a way of inviting people to keep in touch with what contemporary dance is doing now.
Yeah, to have that exposure. Yeah. Is that what installation means?
An installation, in my case, would be a set choreography that will move its pieces according to the place, and we probably move, for example, in a museum. It's not one single space for performing, but maybe the dance moves and the audience has to walk with us. And we go up or go down, or it's like a transient choreography in physical terms.
Yeah, you don't have just a single stage with everyone just looking toward that.
Exactly. That's what it is. Yeah.
Tell us a little about your experience, which has been amazing. You were in New York City for a long time. You've worked with some of the greats, Merce Cunningham, in experimental vanguard dance troupes like Moving Earth. Tell us about that.
I was really very lucky because when I was performing in Mexico, I was with a contemporary group that belonged to the Ballet Folclórico de Mexico. And Amalia Hernandez, her director, wanted to create a contemporary dance company. And she really wanted to have the highest of all quality possible, because the Folclórico is a very high standard company. So she invited Alvin Nicolai. He came here, and I had studied in Canada a couple of years before. So I was the only young woman in this contemporary company. I was only 19 years old or something like that. And he came, and I was the only one who could translate, sort of, the classes. He was teaching in English. So I became the translator for those classes. And out of nothing, really being very innocent, and I don't know, I just asked him if I could go learn to his school. And he said, "You got a scholarship."
Wow.
That's how it happened. It was really amazing. So I was in New York in his school, the Nicolai. In those years, it was called the Murray Lewis Dance Company, and the Alvin Nicolai Dance Theater, and the school was the Louis Nicolai Dance Theater Lab. And then when Nicolai died, they changed around the names. But what I want to say is that the program was a 3-year program. And I was very lucky because I had them as teachers. And I had Hania Holm and Phyllis Lamphood and people that were really fantastic and very inspiring and very encouraging. And so I was very lucky. And I studied with Cunningham before. I had also a scholarship from Wolf Trap, American University at Washington, D.C. And I still remember the experience of learning with them as some of the best experiences in my life. They were so full of energy and vision, and at the same time, I don't know, I think of them as almost as Zen teachers, because they weren't excited like this,
or just cracking the whip all the time.
No, they were very steady, very direct. Their eyes could see through everything, and they could just give you the right direction, and you would find something amazing. It was fantastic. I was lucky. I was very lucky.
It takes a special skill, because you're using language to try to communicate directly to movement, to a body, you know.
Exactly.
And that's
so it was very extraordinary. After that,
And you performed there as well?
I performed. We were students from many countries, so we would get together and do our performances. In those times, New York was very easy. There were spaces for performance that weren't expensive. The Open Eye, the Visual Arts School, the Cubiculo Theater. So there were many small spaces to perform. And so we would get together as choreographers, dancers, and we would do a program with different choreographies from one of us, and it was a very nice experience. And then I discovered the Laban Institute of Movement Studies, and I didn't know exactly what it was. So one day I just knocked at the door and went in and realized that they were giving a very fantastic program on movement analysis. So I studied that. I did the 3-year program, and I
So what was new about a number of people might not know about
Laban? Was a man. Many people think he was German, but actually he was born in Bratislava, which was belonged to Hungary before the wars in the 20th century. He was born in 1879, and he developed a vision about dance. He asked himself if there are so many ways the body can express through dance. What is the essence of it? What makes us so connected to any way, any form of expression through dance that you don't need a translator? And so when he was a child, he would travel through the different states that were surrounding his city, and he discovered the dervish dance. So he became amazed by the fact that they could turn and turn for 8 hours, for a long night.
That trance-like state.
And what they told him was that it was a way to experience God. And I think that was it for him. He said, I have to study dance. I have to know what it is that makes dance the extraordinary spiritual experience and also human experience. And through the years he developed a vision and a whole theoretical area of study that includes nonverbal communication, therapy through movement in different somatics, physiotherapy, etc. And him and his colleagues that were first his students and then his colleagues, they all developed the whole field of movement studies. That's how it came about, as a science.
Within the
so
art,
now we study all over the world. And in those years when I studied, we were very few. It was small. Community. There is the other very important school was in London, and but now it's really studied in many places, and there are many important people studying and teaching. There's, for example, Peggy Hackney is a very recognized teacher and a researcher, choreographer, everything, and she's very inspiring. And she's at Berkeley. So that's what it was, yeah.
And for you personally, how did it change your approach to dance?
It changed me a lot. I actually had a hard time coming back because my vision had changed so much. And I cannot tell, I wouldn't say that I have an American vision of dance. That's not true, but the combination made something very interesting. Also, the experience of dancing with Keita Kei, who had a very avant-garde company in those years in New York. She is from Japan, so that also contributed to a way of looking at dance. Very, I would say it's kind of peculiar. Yeah, yeah.
But it's always been that mixture of cultures in many ways coming together that's created, especially the new kinds of forms that we see.
That's right. And also in Mexico is like that, because we have so many indigenous areas with such a rich dance culture. Every group, every indigenous area in Mexico creates such beautiful dances, and some of the choreographers have, for some years now, tried to get inspiration for all of those ways of looking at dance, ritual dance, religious dance, fiesta dance, all of that, yeah.
Well, it was interesting to me that you mentioned Amalia Hernandez, because people generally just associate her in this niche of the folkloric dance. And so to hear that she was really one of the promoters of modern dance as well, and could see those linkages, I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
Because she has this very specific kind of a reputation.
Exactly.
In that sense.
I think she was one of the most generous people I've known. She started as a modern dancer. She started with Jose Limon, and Catherine Dunham came to Mexico, and she taught in Mexico for a while. She came 3 or 4 times. I'm talking about the 30s and 40s, and Anna Sokolov came, and many important teachers from the United States. And then she started choreographing contemporary dance, or modern dance, it was called then. But after a while, she decided she wanted to do something with folk dance. Many people thought that that was not the original folk dance, and they are right. She wanted to do something stylized to bring to audiences that wouldn't be able to go to little towns to see the original dances. So she was very respectful, but also she was really interested in contributing seriously to dance. So many people in my generation really were they were given a scholarship by her, or they were just given the means to grow and choreograph. Well, the company still has a theater, and you would perform there also. So it was fantastic. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we've come to the end of the show. Pilar, thanks so much for being with us. It was a real pleasure to talk to you. I hope we can do it again soon.
Yes, I hope so. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. And thank you. We'll be back next week on Interviews from Mexico.
We have been